Greetings, math fans. All right, so this is worksheet 9, and it's basically our last topic in the counting probability chapter. So the topic today is called factorial. It's a math word that's used, and just to kind of highlight this little exclamation point right here, that means factorial. Okay, so when you see 5 factorial, that doesn't mean 5, like you yell really loud. That means a math thing. Okay, so basically the next line here describes it. So 5 factorial is basically that number times the number before times the number before it, all the way down to 1. Okay, so 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. 3 factorial is 3 times 2 times 1. And 1 factorial is just 1. So if you go any lower than that, actually you can't do a negative, but if you did 0, just by definition, 0 factorial is 1. Don't really need to know that, okay? All right, so that's what you kind of need to know, is that it goes down with multiplication, okay? So what I want to do with you guys is, again, I want to do the first 8 problems with you, and then have you do the next 8 by yourself, okay? So 4 factorial, you can write it all out here, so let's do that. If I wrote this out, it's 4. You guys know a dot means multiplication, right? So I'm just going to do that because the x is kind of big and messy. So 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 over 2 times 1. Now, what you need to recognize here is when you have multiplication, these numbers cancel out and these numbers cancel out, and you're only left with 4 times 3, and 4 times 3 is 12. And that's your answer to this problem. Okay, so I want you to understand that when you start writing, you have to write the terms out. Okay, it helps you a lot. So 6 factorial is 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 over 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Now that gets to be kind of a pain, especially as the number gets bigger. Okay, like the next one, if you look at number 3, it's 9 factorial or 7 factorial. You got to write 9 out. But understand, if you just write the first few terms out, look what happens. Starting with this 5 here, all that cancels. Okay, so anything below cancels, like that 6 factorial and 5 factorial, anything below 5 cancels. So that all cancels, and my answer to this problem is just 6. So if I look at number 3, and I have 9 factorial over 7 factorial, that's 9 times 8 times 7 times 6. I'm not going to go any further, because 7 factorial is 7 times 6, and then I'm going to go like this. So everything below, all this stuff cancels, because really everything below 7 cancels. Okay, so you don't have to write it all out. Just kind of write first few terms out, see what starts to cancel, and then just don't have to write any more out. Just they cancel all out. So my answer is just 9 times 8, which is 72. Okay? So sometimes you have to write a few more terms out, like 6 factorial. So 6 times 5 times 4 times 3. I recognize there's a 3 here. So it's really 3 times, and that keeps going, and that keeps going. So I kind of recognize what keeps going, because that all cancels, that cancels, and it's 6 times 5 times 4. So you need to put that in your calculator and write that and figure that out, and that gives you 120. Okay? So number 5 is, now interesting, it's on top is bigger, right? See how you had 6 times 5 times 4 on top? Now look at this number 5. It's 2 times 1, and 4 is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. I'm just going to write all those terms out. The 2 times 1 actually cancels, but now, guys, when everything cancels on the top, make sure you put a 1 here, because it's left over on the bottom. So don't tell me the answer is 4 times 3 or 12. It's 1 over 12. That's important. Okay, so again, you're writing the terms out. So 5 times 4, you keep going, and this one's 6 times 5 times 4 keeps going. So notice these cancel. This cancels, right? So I only have 1 over 6 left over, and that's my answer. Okay, so like, and if you notice, if the number's bigger on top, that means it's a whole number. Like number 3 was 72, but the number's bigger on the bottom, like number 5, so it's 1/12. Okay, so like number 7 is 9 times 8 times 7, keeps going down. And 10 is 10 times 9 times 8 times 7, keeps going down. So if you notice, everything cancels everything cancels starting from the 9. So that's all out of here, and your answer is just 1/10. Okay? And 6 factorial is 6 times 5. I'm not even going any further because I see that 8 times 7 times 6. So notice what's canceling is the 6 is canceling the 5s, and I'm left with 8 times 7 on the bottom. So it's 1/56. And that's your answer. Okay? Okay, so what you guys need to do is you need to try the next 8 problems. Okay, I'm going to do them, but you should try them first, and then you can check them. All right, so, okay, I'm going to do it now. So this is 10 times 9, that keeps going, and that's 9 times blah, 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 blah. So it cancels, and your answer is just 10. This is, now this one you got to actually write out, 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, because the 1 is just a 1 on the bottom. So nothing really cancels. I mean, you could say the 1 cancels, but it's really 4 times 3 times 2 is 24. Okay, this one, got to write out a few more times. So 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2. So I'm just going to write it to 2, because 2 times, it's 1. So really this cancels. And if you multiply all it out, again, use your calculator, it's 360. But notice the 6 is on top, so it's a bigger number on top. So 7 factorial is 7 times 6 times 5. I'm not going to write any more out, because that's 5 times, and then it keeps going. So the 5 cancels, and you just have 7 times 6, which is 42. Okay, the 6, now notice the number's bigger on the bottom. That means you're going to have a fraction. So 6 times 5 keeps going, right? And 7 times 6 times 5 keeps going. So this cancels. Your answer is 1/7. Okay, again, it's bigger on the bottom. 3 times, that keeps going down. It's 5 times 4 times 3 keeps going down. So everything cancels, including the 3, and then you have 1/5 times 4, which is 1/20. What you want to do is put this in your calculator. Don't worry about the fraction. Just do 5 times 4 is 20, and then say 1/20. Okay? And then 12 factorial, that's going to be a lot if you would write the whole thing out, but we know that the bottom's bigger, so it's going to be a fraction. So it's 12 times, keeps going, and it's 13 times 12, keeps going. So that cancels out, and you have 1/13. Same thing with this. It's 10 times, keeps going, and then 11 times 10, that keeps going. So everything cancels, that cancels, it's bigger on the bottom, so your answer is 1/11. Okay? So that is what factorial is, math fans. You'll see this on a test, you'll see it on the final exam, but make sure you know how to deal with, when you see a little exclamation point, how to deal with it. All right? That's it, math fans. Have an outstanding day. Adios. Goodbye.